Hello, I'm Carrie Gard, and welcome back to Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders. I so appreciate each and every one of you who signed up for this event, and then I had to reschedule. I'm so sorry. I had to go pick up my daughter unexpectedly, and she's good. She's fine. Just kids. You know what I'm saying? But we're here now, and I'm so grateful to Jen for her flexibility. A little bit about Jen VanAntwerp before we get started. And of course, I lost my notes, which is so great. I swear I'm organized. Here we go. With 20 years of experience in marketing and leadership roles in cybersecurity, health tech, healthcare, and automotive industries, Jen offers a strong balance between business savvy and creative capabilities. Leveraging excellent communication and interpersonal skills, she is able to cultivate strong customer, partner, media, and public relations. In her previous positions, she has managed all aspects of the creative and production process to design and develop integrated marketing, communication, and ad campaigns. She has been honored to build and spearhead top performing teams, providing the strategic guidance, training, and support needed to meet and exceed business objectives. Jen, welcome. Finally, welcome.
Yay.
So grateful you're
Hi,
here.
Carrie. So excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So excited to have you. And, that was a lovely little blurb. Thank you for doing my job for me. I appreciate you. That's one of the greatest bios I've ever got to read. So thank you for that. But you're more than a quick blurb. It's really about your story. So,
Yes.
what do you do now, Jen, and how did you get there?
I am a bit of a Swiss Army knife. So like you've mentioned, I've been in marketing for a little over 2 decades. And my positions have kind of run the gamut. I know there's some contention with the word generalist, but I am a bit of that because I've been able to do both the strategy and managing large teams, all the way to being a solo marketer at an organization. And then I currently do a lot of contract work. So I'm a consultant. My company is called JVan Consulting, and we do marketing for early stage security startups. And then my passion project, and I think a big part of the reason why I'm here and why I'm wearing this tie-dye today, is I have a nonprofit that I started about 1.5 years ago. It's called Sober in Cyber. We do alcohol-free networking events and different types of activities and engagements during security conferences. So the goal of that nonprofit is to really increase the number of alternative events and things that are just inclusive for everybody who want to go and network without any pressure to drink. I started my career in automotive industry, and I was in automotive for a little over a decade. Absolutely loved it, but started to get a little bit burnt out on helping folks sell cars. And so then I shifted gears, pun intended, and I went over to healthcare. And I was in healthcare marketing then for about 7 or 8 years. But the whole time, I had met my husband at the automotive dealer group, and he had started his career in security. When we first met, he was in IT. He was desktop support, and I was in marketing. And my laptop broke, and that's kind of how we initially met. So it was a very, very nice little meet cute. So he had already started his career, and he kept kind of telling me like, hey, I think you would like this. I think you should apply for these jobs. You would love it. And I resisted because I did really love healthcare, and I just kind of kept pushing back. But then I went to RSA with him in 2016, met a lot of the people, saw what the industry was like. And honestly, it was just the people. I was talking to a lot of folks about, my desire maybe to transition into the industry. And I asked them, what do you love about your marketing? What do you hate about it? And everybody was really open and just not holding on to their cheese, and was just so excited to have another person interested in joining the industry that I just fell in love with it. And I've never wanted to turn back. It's just such a fantastic community.
It is. It's so arms open. It's why it's the same reason why I absolutely fell in love with the industry too, is something that's so different about cyber than some of the other industries I've been in is everybody's willingness, and that's why this podcast I think has been so successful, is to share and all grow and learn together, realizing that we're all in the same boat of the security aspect and wanting to kind of save the world. And so it's just such a nice change of pace from people
Yeah.
being like, oh, I can't give away my secret sauce. I can't tell my
Right.
competitors what I'm doing.
The missions are powerful. The things we're protecting are critical, literally critical. I have clients in the OT security space. So these are things like, our critical infrastructure that we're trying to protect. And the threats are changing so quickly. The attackers' tactics change so fast that I think that's why folks are often really quick to share knowledge and intel, because we're all, trying to fight this battle together. And I honestly, one of the biggest things that really, really won me over was I started to get involved with the Cybersecurity Marketing Society in 2020 and just absolutely fell in love with the founders, with the people there. It's such a fantastic, close-knit community that, I've realized, these are my people. These are my little weirdos. I'm never going anywhere else. I absolutely love it. And honestly, everyone in this industry, the more you talk to them, you realize there are so many layers. The hobbies that folks in security have, even that are completely separate from their work environment, everyone's just so cool.
They all there's a vibe. There's just
Yes.
a really wonderful vibe, authentic vibe of really being able to show up as yourself and be accepted, which is not something you get everywhere. I came from the big agency side and I started in New York City. So suiting up and going to work.
Oh gosh.
And that
it's a different vibe altogether, I bet.
Totally different. And I put the armor on and showed up and did my job. But it's nice to not have to do that and to
and not to say that it's perfect. I mean, we have our bumpy bits. We have our times where there are blockers and barriers and everything, but it really is coming from the perspective of having worked in a few different industries, as far as knowledge sharing and people getting excited about folks coming on board. We still have all those entry level jobs that require 10 different certs that I know that's a struggle, but when it comes to sharing their intel and sharing their best practices, people really are arms wide open, which is fantastic.
So open. One of the things you mentioned is being a generalist, and I feel this too, where I'm a bit of a Swiss Army knife, but I still feel like I have my thing that I'm best at. I can do the other things, whether I want to or not, but there's things I sort of prefer and feel like I'm better at. Do you have sort of a certain skill set that you tend to lean into in terms of your generalization?
I do. So I typically start with content creation, content management. I let that kind of drive some of the other aspects, and that lends itself really nicely to social media management. The areas that I'm strongest in really are in content strategy, social media, and then events management. Now, especially with Sober and Cyber, I'm constant party planner, so I have a lot of experience in that regard. Some of the other areas that I'll typically tap a specialist or get some other folks involved. I can do on the strategy side, but when it comes to actual implementation, it's on the digital marketing side. I feel like that field changes so rapidly and so quickly. Best practices are constantly changing. So it's been a while since I had my hands directly in digital management. So I typically tap a specialist for that. But content, social, also PR on the PR side. I'm good at drafting content that optimizes really well for wire distributions, but I haven't had the time to really build relationships with media. So that's something that a PR agency or PR specialist is fantastic about, because they have those established relationships. So,
yeah, I could talk about this all day because PR is going to get more important as the LLMs pick up. But that you and being able to write for it and then work with an agency to actually see it. I mean, wow, what a powerhouse of a combination. So that is awesome. Before we move on to the next segment, if you're here with us, say hello. We'd love to know that you've joined us. Drop any questions, comments below, and Elijah will hang out with you and make sure that we see those and we come back to them as the show goes on. If you are listening while we are not live and you still have questions, don't be shy. Drop them on in and we will follow up with you asynchronously. I pinky swear. Okay, Jen, let's talk about event planning. So, Sober and Cyber,
Origin
Take us from the
story.
beginning.
Okay.
Origin story. Take us
Yes.
from the beginning of where this came, how this came to be.
I was born at, no, I won't go back that far. But it was a long, long time ago. So I got sober 24 years ago, a long, long time ago.
That's
And so
amazing.
I've been sober through working across a few different industries. And I've found different ways to navigate social events, like work-related networking events. And while the industries that I've worked at are pretty different, automotive, healthcare, and now security, all of the networking events and the after-hour events are almost exactly the same. It's typically been, an open bar or a, whiskey tasting or wine pairing or a lot of things that just kind of revolve around alcohol. And I understand why. As a marketer, I've thrown a lot of those types of events before. I know that they're popular for a reason. But as someone who is trying to stay away from drinking myself based on a personal choice, like I said, I found different tactics and tips, like always have a beverage in your hand. That way people are less likely to just bring you something alcoholic or to ask what you're drinking. I'm very open about my sobriety or my desire not to drink, but not everyone is, nor should they have to be. It shouldn't really be a point of discussion, but it does come up quite a bit if you're not drinking at some of those types of events, just because it is so prevalent. So I've found different ways to navigate those environments. There have been times where if I'm not feeling really confident or secure in my own sobriety, I'll just opt out. I've, learned to give myself permission not to pressure myself to go into those situations if I don't feel really comfortable, or if I'm at at an environment or a party and it starts to be a little hairy, I just get the hell out. So I've given myself permission not to go, and I know a lot of other folks do as well. But that kind of sucks because there are a lot of really great connections that happen at those events. There are, continuations of discussions that might have started earlier at the booth. I joke that the close of a deal might start at a booth, but it closes at the bar. And that happens pretty frequently where opportunities for career advancement or development happen at these, after hours networking events. And so I always had this daydream of like, how cool would it be to have a networking event, a work-related social activity where there was literally zero pressure to drink. And I didn't really see that happening. And so initially I started just kind of talking about the idea, thinking like, because of course, at first I overanalyzed it and thought about it to death. And then I thought, I need to start opening my mouth and talking about this idea and just seeing if there would be interest from the community. And the times that I started to talk about it, everybody was really welcoming and receptive to the idea, and honestly very excited. So it was in July 2023 that I think it was March 2023, because I created the website, I spun up a Discord server, and then we had our first big event right in between Black Hat and DEF CON in 2023. It was at the Mob Museum, and it was a sober speakeasy, and we rented out part of their, underground speakeasy area. And it's just exploded since then. Last year we had the same event at the same spot in between, at the Mob Museum, but this time we rented out the entire underground bar. We had over 100 people there. Past closing hour, I had to do a little announcement like last call for now on alcohol. It was crazy. The events have been phenomenal, and the response from the community has been overwhelmingly positive. So that's how I realized, like, okay, we've got a good thing going here. This isn't just something that I selfishly wanted to do. Like, this is something that a lot of people are excited about. And not just folks who have, there are a lot of people who come to our events who have never, ever had a problem with drinking. Like, they just don't drink at all. They choose not to drink, or maybe they are pregnant and not quite ready to share that news with their coworkers. So they know that if they come to our event, they're going to have zero, nobody's going to ask, oh, why aren't you drinking? There are a lot of folks who will come because they know they have a multitude of other events to go to that night or later in the week, and they're just kind of trying to pace themselves, but they still want to engage in like building those connections within the security community. And our events are a great place to do that with zero pressure to drink.
It's so important to network in person. At our marketing con, I actually found the best networking to be in the lobby of the hotel after hours. Like people, like there, though I don't know if the bar was open. I didn't even really see people drinking. It was just like everybody hanging out, and it was awesome. I think
Yes.
it's so nice to now have somewhere to go to be able to do that such important networking in a
Yeah.
way that is zero pressure, because there is an uptick
Yeah.
around people not drinking across the board, especially for the younger folks coming up.
Yeah.
It's awesome and surprising in a good way.
Yes.
How did you? So you had this idea. You started talking to people about it. You had your very first event in March of 2023. It sounds like it's more than just hanging out at a bar that's mocktails.
Yep.
You talked about this mob and the speakeasy aspect.
Mm.
Can you tell me more about how you think about these events to make it
Yes.
engaging and to bring people in and invite them into a
Yeah.
space that's maybe not traditional?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very intentional. When I'm getting ready to host like a full Sober and Cyber event, so we also will like host or sponsor different mocktails at regional conferences. If someone doesn't want to have like a fully dry event, I totally get that. It also is a lot of work to put those together. So we'll do everything from speaking with event organizers to help them learn how to make things a little more inclusive. But when I'm getting ready to do a full Sober and Cyber event, the main things that I want to focus on, I want people to be able to like hear each other at the event. One of the biggest benefits is being able to talk and connect. And I'm sure you've been to a lot of networking events where the music is so loud that it's almost impossible to hear each other without like spitting right across from each other. And that's not fun. So I want to make sure that people will be able to hear each other. It's a nice, cool, fun vibe. We've got some good tunes, but the main event is the connections and the people there. So I want to make sure that people can hear each other. There's food. There's going to be like actual food, not just like tiny little appetizers on sticks. We want to have real actual food for people to eat. One of the benefits of not spending as much money on the alcohol, there are a lot of these venues that do have food and beverage minimums. So you have to meet this minimum threshold. And since we're not spending it on alcohol, I can pick like the really nice platters or some of the hot plates
That's
to
awesome.
feed people. Yes. And then I want to have places for people to sit. I think it's usually a mix of like open spaces for people to mingle, but typically at the conferences, we're running around all day. People are going from one event to the next. I want there to be like little clustered seating spaces where people can actually sit and visit, like get into deeper conversations with folks. So you can hear each other. You will have real honest to goodness food. You'll be able to like sit your butt down for a little while and actually hang out. And then that fourth item is really delicious mocktails. And I just want the event itself to be so much fun that even if somebody has like never had a mocktail before or never been to an alcohol-free event, when they come, like, oh my God, that was so much fun. I want to come again. Because our events are open to everyone. The only requirement, obviously, is that don't come there if you're drunk already. Like, just be respectful of that. Don't come there if it's going to be triggering for folks to see you
Don't
hammered.
pregame.
Obviously, exactly. You'd think we wouldn't have to say that, but yes, don't do that. Not cool. But other than that, everyone is welcome. I really want people to come and see. You can have not even just as much fun. I know I'm a little biased, but I think it's even more fun because you remember the conversations that you're having. The engagement level is so high. People are they're connecting on deeper levels because you don't have folks that are there just for the open bar or the free drinks. I mean, maybe they're there just for the free mocktails, but that's a little weird. I think the folks that are there for the right reasons because they want to connect with other people within the community. It's magic.
I love that. Yeah, the 4 pieces are so
Yeah.
key and not something people always think about.
Yeah.
And so what an environment to be able to actually go and network.
Yes. Yeah, I think a lot of
Um,
times, myself included, I've been guilty of this too as a marketer. I'm thinking of like, I want to be able to have as many people in the space as possible. I want to make the vibe like really hip and happening, although I probably don't sound very hip and happening since I just said hip and happening. Like we wanted to feel like a party, and a lot of times that's become synonymous with like standing room only and so loud that we can barely hear each other. So it's a different vibe, but it's one that's been really successful. And one of my favorite parts, especially at the events that we have where it bumps up between Black Hat and DEF CON, is you'll have people there, dressed to the nines in their little, executive business suit. And then we've got, a whole slew of ethical hackers there with like crazy rainbow color hair. And folks are interacting and mixing it up with each other that might not have had, other opportunities to be at the same type of an event. Because this isn't focused on a specific type of technology or a specific vendor. It really is just focused on bringing people together who want to connect with other security folks in an environment with zero pressure to drink.
I love the food piece because there is clearly, like, generally when you go to these events, there is more effort on the bar than there is on the food, and that's really counterbalanced because you really shouldn't drink on an empty stomach.
Right.
So I love that. Even when I don't do a ton of event planning, but we always do an annual summit with the team, and we get together and we always go out and do something. So we go to, last year was really fun. We did mini golf inside.
Oh, nice.
And so everybody, and then the mini golf area, it was in New York City. They had food trucks. So you got to pick which food truck you wanted to go to, and then you ordered from there. And I always tell the team, I'm like, we will cover your first beer or wine. If you want to go fancy, that's up to you. And then after that, it's on you guys. And so to your point, it allows us to make sure we're taking care of them and getting them food.
Yes.
Way more important than alcohol, obviously. So I absolutely love that.
It's tough at conferences too, because I think there are sometimes when I meet folks who have worked in security primarily, are like, oh my gosh, our industry is so bad when it comes to like substance abuse and alcoholism. And like, it's not atypical. It's not that it's so much worse than other industries, but I think within our industry, we do have a lot of, people with neurodivergence and folks who, like myself, I'm an extrovert, but I do have pretty bad social anxiety when it comes to like meeting new people or being in new situations. So when you couple that, when you've got some social anxiety issues and you're going to a conference, maybe it's the first conference you've ever been to, or you get uncomfortable around groups of large people, or you're nervous about meeting new folks, or that, horrible imposter syndrome creeping up. We've got all these other issues going on in the background. And then we've had a long day of conference. We are more than likely very dehydrated because sometimes at the conferences, it's hard to even find places to refill your water bottle. So you're dehydrated. And then you've got maybe 2 or 3 different evening events that you need to like make an appearance at that you've been invited to. If you're just having 1 or 2 drinks at each one of those, by the end of the night, it can be a really bad situation, because if you start to use alcohol as sort of that social lubricant, it can start to cause you to have even more than you normally would. And people are just usually trying to be polite when they're like bringing you a new drink or saying, "Hey, what can I get you? What can I get you?" And it's free, so it's harder to say no. So it's like this. These cascading errors that start to happen, where by the end of a conference or an event, people might have done or said things that they normally wouldn't have, that they might regret, or just feel icky, just feel like dried out and hungover and nasty. So having alternative options, whether it's through Sober and Cyber, or, hopefully this message helps to inspire other marketers and other people to like throw different types of events, whole different kinds of activities that don't just revolve around alcohol. And I don't think it's been intentional. I don't think it's anything that we as an industry have done on purpose. It's just what's been done and what's worked. Yeah. It works, really well in the past, but man, we're so creative. We can find so many cooler things to do.
Yeah, I think as we learn, we talked about the authenticity of the cyber crew in terms of all the people who show up. And I think the inclusivity that this creates, the other thing I I think we have to rethink events collectively across the board, from sober, from allergies, from the anxieties like we
Mm,
mentioned. I think one of the wonderful things that you're doing is thinking about the space as a whole from an inclusive standpoint. We're talking about places for people to sit and be able to
mm,
actually hear one another,
yeah.
are wonderful attributes. How do you Is it just those things in terms of people knowing that if they're going to a sober and cyber event, those are things to look forward to? Or is there some aspect, you mentioned having a vibe and keeping the music sort of soft, but do you have other pulls of, like, you talked about, um I guess I'm talking more about themes. You talked about sort of
Yeah.
the, um, at the mob club where you
Yeah,
did
yeah.
the,
Sober
right? So
speakeasy.
yeah, speakeasy, that's the
Yes.
word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yes. So do you always have sort of like a theme or a thing or a hook to, like, make people excited and bring them in?
Yeah, for our 2, so we have I say this like we've been doing this forever. We're only on year, like, 1.5 right now, but there are 2, main events that I'm more than likely going to have every single year. Initially, I wanted to start by having a Sober and Cyber event with some of the larger security conferences, starting here within the US, but I definitely want to, like, make this more global as we have more volunteers who'll be able to help cover some stuff. I know Karen's like, "Come on over.
Come on
Come
over.
on. Guernsey's nice this time of year. Come on down." Like InfoSec. Yeah, that would be fantastic. But RSA and like Hacker Summer Camp are the 2 main events that I want to have a big sober and cyber event during. So with RSA, it is the Rock and Mocktails event. So we have that one actually coming up on April 28th. So Rock and Mocktails is like punk rock and roll themed event. We're going to have a temporary tattoo artist who's going to be there this year who can give you some guilt-free ink wherever you'd like.
Yes.
Rock and roll themed arts and crafts, which was really, really fun last year. So I definitely want to do that again this year. And some good music, like still you can hear each other, but it's rock music. And then at the Sober Speakeasy, that one, the Mob Museum does a fantastic job of, they've got some like chill vibe music that, feels like you're in an underground speakeasy back in the day. It's like 20s, 30s instrumental stuff. But we had some good little costume pieces, the little, like, I think they're fedora hats, and the little like feather headbands, like, and some people dress up in flopper costumes, and it was a ton of fun. We had a really cool photo booth there this last year, but the venue itself is phenomenal at the Mob Museum. During our event, people are able to go and tour the museum for free. So they come in
Oh,
through the underground speakeasy. They have to know like a secret word, but if you don't actually know it, as long as you have your ticket, they'll let you in. But they have you go through the whole, like, oh, what's that? Like, open a little door and ask you for the secret word. It's just a whole, the experience helps to make the event. It helps to make the party more memorable and something that people want to come back to the next year. So
I
I'm a big theme fan. I love
You gotta have your
costuming.
theme.
Oh my God. Yes, I love like themed mocktails, themed, just everything. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the mocktails, because I saw some pictures from one of your events not too long ago, and you had some ones that looked glorious. So, what are some of your favorite go-to mocktails for these things?
Oh my gosh. I try to work with a bartender. So I myself am not a mixologist. So I need to learn more about like mixology, especially doing this. I think it would be helpful for me, but I know what tastes good. I know what I like. And as a sober person, there are a lot of times when in the past, we've kind of been relegated to like, oh, yeah, we have non-alcoholic beverages, soda, and that's about it. So I want to have some things that still feel elevated, that aren't just syrupy, sugary sweet. And that, I love like the little garnishes and things that just make it feel
Cheers.
extra. I'm a little extra myself, and so I like to have things that feel like additional effort has been taken to put them together. So that's usually what I'm looking for when I look at a mocktail menu from from a venue or somebody that I'm going to be working with. Is like what's that thing that's going to make people feel extra special? Like, ooh, look at this fancy swizzle stick with sugar crystals on it. I don't know, like all those things that make it feel a little extra fancy. Oh, a little piece of a plant. Oh my goodness. Little things like
Basil.
that. A burnt part of
Yes.
an orange peel. It's the little things that help to
Right.
like, yeah, little things that help to kind of push it over past Shirley Temple into something that feels a little more grown up.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I do love a good Shirley Temple. I've been ordering
Yes,
those
they
since
are. They are.
forever. I
They are
still
good.
order them.
They are
Yeah.
tasty.
I'm
And
that
then kind of
child.
a
It's great.
mix of, I love when bartenders can do a mix of some things that are on the fruitier side and then others that are a little more savory, so that
Savory.
way it's not just
Mhm.
like sugary, fruity, sweet for each drink, a real variety of flavors.
Yeah, that's nice because I do find that without because the alcohol eats the sugar, right? So if you don't
Mhm.
have that in it, then things do come across. I asked a friend the other day, after tennis, we always go to the cafe and have drinks, and
Yeah.
I've been, since January, I haven't been drinking, and so I was like, "What's in the UK, the big thing here is cider, right?"
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
now have non-alcoholic cider, and I was like, "What's is it
Oh,
does it actually taste like cider?" And he's like, "Unfortunately, it's basically just glorified fruit
fruit
juice."
juice. Yeah.
Like,
That
thrown in.
happens a lot.
Okay. I will not do that now, go for the fermented tea instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was really curious if that's, how you sort of overcome that in this
Mhm.
scenario of it. And it sounds like the garnishes, the going more savory than sweet, all those things. So
Yeah.
we'll have to get some of your favorite recipes from some of the events you've
Yes,
held and
definitely.
share those with folks
Yeah.
because I think I would love to be able to go to like a bar and say, "Can I have this, but
Yeah.
without that?" And, have something a little bit fancier, when you're holding that drink
Yeah.
to elude people, but, like, it still looks like a thing because
My
it's
my typical
fancy.
go-to for that, it's really simple. I'll just have them put, like, sparkling water in a glass with a splash of cranberry juice and a lime wedge, like a lemon or a lime wedge. And,
That is
I call it a Suzy Q, and that's because my Aunt Sue, I think she tried to name something after herself. That's what she always drinks when she goes out, and, so I tried to order them before and, like, I don't know what that is, so I think she named that herself, which is adorable. Because now my uncle, all the places that they go know, oh yeah, I'll get you a Suzy Q, but I think it's because they've been going there for a long time. But yeah, just sparkling water, a splash of cranberry juice, and then a lime. It's really light, refreshing, and it
Yeah.
it does kind of look. Usually they put it in like a little lowball glass, so it does look kind of like what everyone's drinking. And honestly, bartenders are usually my MVP. Like if I'm going to a place where I don't feel really comfortable talking about my sobriety, I will tell the bartender like, "Hey, I'm not drinking. I'm sober. If anyone does happen to order me anything that has alcohol in it, don't do that." And they're always so great about like getting my drink ready even before I'm halfway done with the one that I have, so that we can just kind of swap it out really
Oh,
quickly.
that's so
And
nice.
honestly, a lot of bartenders are sober themselves because I think they've seen the other side of things for so long that they get it.
For sure.
Yeah.
What other in terms of event planning in general, I love that you found this empty space. What sort of
Mhm.
advice would you give to folks as they think about event planning and finding opportunity that's maybe non-traditional and in that, you know, empty space? I think what
Yeah.
you did, if I had to summarize, which I think is so lovely, is you were like, "Well, where would I want to go? What would this look like for me?"
Yeah.
So I think that's one great way to do it. But do you have any other tips and tricks of like what if you could, like, paint us a picture of, what events would look like for the future
Yeah.
as we move into this realm, what would you love to see more event planners do?
Talk to the people who you want to come to your events. Ask them what interests them. We just had a fantastic call with the Cybersecurity Marketing Society yesterday. We have a Field Marketing Monthly meetup, and we were talking about just this, like alternative ideas for different events. Instead of maybe just having the standard booth, what other types of activities would you want to do? And like I was saying, this industry, the people in this space are so creative. If we just start thinking about that earlier on and asking our prospects and our customers, like, what interests you? What would be fun for you? A lot of folks too are starting to do more things that can involve people's families. If it's a regional event or one where, people are going to be coming from home,
That's awesome.
what's something that people can bring, their kids to or their significant other to that might help to, eke out that different alternative type of a space where people really remember you, because not only did you treat me nicely, I think a lot of the executives are so used to getting like wined and dined. Not only did you try to treat me nicely, but you helped me find a really good like a cooking event or something that I could do with a date or with a spouse, or take my kids to a painting event or something really, really fun that's outside of the box. So to start your planning earlier than you normally would, so that you're not stuck with like, oh, what do we do? I guess what we've always done. Start the planning earlier and be intentional. Talk to the people that you want to be at the event. Ask them what would interest and intrigue them and leave a lasting impression. And then start talking about those things. Once you decide all the cool stuff that you're going to do, if you're going to have some alternative types of activities or beverage options, make sure you talk about that, celebrate it, let people know, because that way folks who are maybe attending that conference, instead of going back to their hotel room because they think, oh, there's not really anything out there for me, it's going to be the same thing as always, they'll know like, no, this event is going to be cool. This one, I know at least I'll be able to feel welcome or find a place where I can kind of belong.
Talk to your audience. It's been a theme, folks.
Yes.
It's been a theme. I hope we're finally like breaking through here. Talk to your audience. What do they want? What's important to them? Everything we do as marketers is for them. So what is that? And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much, Jen, for sharing with us how you created Sober and Cyber, how you've differentiated it to make it interesting and welcoming, and all the wonderful tips you've given to us in terms of how we too can make a more inclusive environment. If you'd like to learn more about Jen and Sober and Cyber, please reach out. Jen, where's the best place to find you?
To reach me directly, just go to LinkedIn, and then our Sober and Cyber website at soberandcyber.org. And you can see the upcoming events that we have on the calendar, any sponsorship opportunities. If you are an alcohol-free person within this industry, we've got a Discord group. Now, while our in-person events are open to everyone, the Discord server I do try to reserve just for sober or alcohol-free people within our industry. That way we can anonymously like share ideas, resources, have the buddy program where like, hey, are you going to this conference? I'm going to this conference. I've got your back. So reach out to me on LinkedIn, find us online, and I hopefully get to see you at a party one of these days.
Yes. Next year, Jen, it's going to be, yes.
It's
gonna
on.
be good. Austin.
It is
Austin,
on.
here we come.
Yes.
Here we come. Wonderful. Well, before we close out, you are more than a marketer, clearly, with all of the wonderful event planning you're doing with your nonprofit. But outside of work and your nonprofit, what is currently bringing you joy?
I love cars. Part of that came from working in automotive industry for a long time, but my dad has had classic cars for a long, long time, ever since I can remember. And in 2020, I bought a 1965 Ford Ranchero. And so I've been working on that and going to car shows with my dad. So it's, multiple times each month. We'll get together either in the Ranchero if it's working at that moment, or we'll just go to car show together with also with my husband and my husband's dad. So hanging out at car shows and talking about cars and trying to fix cars that are more expensive than they have any right to be. I always say, like, I work for parts money. I'm just trying to make some parts money. That's all I'm doing. That's been bringing me so much joy, just getting to hang out there and be in that environment. It's been phenomenal.
I love learning how things work. So I can imagine with not only like loving cars and the look of them, but actually understanding their parts and how it all fits. It's just
a learning process. That's for sure.
It is. From what I understand, it's very complicated. So,
yes.
Yes. Oh, Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jen. I'm so grateful to you. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. This episode is brought to you by MKG Marketing, the digital marketing agency that helps complex companies like in cyber get found via SEO and digital ads. This episode is hosted by me, Carrie Gard, CEO and co-founder of MKG Marketing. Music mix and mastering done by the amazing Elijah Duran, my podcast sidekick. And if you'd like to be a guest, I'd love to have you. DM me. Come be on the show. Thank you all so much. See you next time. See you tomorrow. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you.